Grand risings to everybody out there. This is Back to the Basics. It is season 2, episode 20. I can tell you, it's been crazy. So, season 2, episode 20 is Autonomy Matters. Doing some research. And again, Season 2, episode 18 did talk about emotional intelligence and how important that is in not just an individual's personal life, but also in their professional life. So this is just one of those things that autonomy does matter. Again, we're at the point now where the country is beginning to reopen. And I did notice last week that there are businesses that are opening. Of course, social distancing is still occurring. And I felt, you know what, I need to, we talked about so much, talked about net neutrality, talked about many things in season 2. But autonomy matters. It really matters in the workplace, in the work environment. So first thing is, well, what is autonomy? Well, here it is. The right or condition of self-government. Key word there, self-government. And then, of course, number 2, capacity to decide for oneself and pursue a course of action in one's life. So again, this is an individual deciding for theirself, thinking for theirself, and doing for theirself, which is important. It's important for an individual to be their own advocate. Let me go ahead and take this off of here. Let me see here. And I'm going to start sharing the screen. And of course, notification. Always happen. It never fails. It never fails. So let me start sharing the screen. Hold on here. Okay, and you're saying now, I know I brought it up. Let me try sharing it again. Okay, there it is. Let me share that. I'm going to move out of the way. Once it comes up. There we go. There it is. So I already put the articles. I'm going to be reading out of 2 articles. And then I also included a reference to season 2, episode 18, in which we broke down emotional intelligence. Okay, I'm going to now, there we go. So this is coming from a website. Let me go over here to it. So the name of the article, let me see. Mental health, mortality linked to work autonomy, cognitive ability to meet job demands. Here we see this gentleman, he's stressed out. And this article was written by Tracy Pedersen. And this was actually just updated yesterday, May 29th, 2020. And it's coming from this website, the psychcentral.com. This is one of the oldest whenever I was, breaking down, because again, whenever I research, I really want to definitely investigate what resources that I use. And this one was one of the oldest resources that psychologists use. In fact, let me put up on the screen now that I'm talking about it. Hold on here. So Psych Central, whose daily operations are overseen by Dr. Grohol, provides mental health information as well as annotated guidelines to the most useful online resources today in mental health, psychology, social work, and psychiatry. So this particular source that I'll be reading this article from, again, is overseen by Dr. Grohol. The Psych Central network includes dozens of talk-oriented blogs as well as our online support group community. And then it was named, it was awarded, it was recognized by Time magazine and other various media outlets. And Psych Central is currently celebrating their 25th year online. So this resource for psychology, social work, and psychiatry has been around for 25 years. And here, this statement right here, I'm going to remove the banner. Let me remove the banner. There we go. So the material on this site is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis or treatment provided by a qualified mental health or healthcare provider. Always consult your doctor before trying anything you read here. It's one of those, blanketed statements that definitely need to be included. Let me get that off of there. Now we're going to go to the article. I just wanted to show that I know for some people with the resources, that is, again, some background as to who runs this particular website. And again, this site is used by licensed mental health providers. Okay, so let's get into it. Our mental health and mortality appear to be significantly linked to the amount of autonomy, again, self-governing, someone who is on their own, working by themselves, we have at work, as well as our workload, job demands, and our cognitive ability to deal with those demands, according to a new study at Indiana University. The study, titled "This Job is Literally Killing Me: A Moderated Mediated Model Linking Work Characteristics to Mortality," is published in the Journal of Applied Psychology. Let me keep going. When job demands are greater than the control afforded by the job or an individual's ability to deal with those demands, there is a deterioration of their mental health and accordingly an increased likelihood of death, said Eric Gonzalez Mule, assistant professor of organizational behavior and human resources from the Indiana University Kelley School of Business and the study's lead author. Hey, what's going on, sis? How you doing? I had just started I was going to drop the link. You're more than welcome to come up. Because again, I had just started. Let me copy the link. Hold on here. Let me see if I can do this here. I didn't know what you were doing today, but I'm definitely here. Let me copy this link. You're more than welcome to come up. Because again, I believe, autonomy is so important. Hold on here. There we go. But yeah, so this study is talking about, so this, this assistant professor at the Indiana University Kelley School of Business is saying, hey, when job demands are greater than the control afforded by the job or any individual's ability to deal with those demands, there is a deterioration of their mental health and accordingly an increased likelihood of death, said Mr. Eric Gonzalez. It's just a shame because what's important. I understand, with work and everything, but there's something called a work-life balance. And that's what happens when a person has many demands or, there's like they're feeling multiple roles and responsibilities. And then you throw in there like time sensitivity of certain tasks. If there isn't enough personnel, I mean, there's so many things that can enable, stress in a work environment. And again, not all stress is good. We talked about eustress, which is actually good stress. For people to come out of their comfort zone and different things like that and excel and exceed. But this is where we're talking about this distress, where there's no work-life balance. We'll talk about boundaries and some other things later on in this broadcast. Hey, sheep stay asleep. What's going on? How are you doing? Hope your family is doing okay today. But getting back to autonomy, this is important. And really, it's not just important in the workplace. It's just important in our lives. Let me go back to the banner again. This is just the beginning of this article. Let me go back to the banner talking about autonomy, because this is important. Self-government. That is the right or condition of self-government. That is so important. Self-government, to be able, like I said before, a person can be their best friend or they can be their worst enemy. If I were you, again, I don't like to really use the second person. I would choose the former, not the latter. Be your own advocate. Number 2, we see capacity to decide for oneself and pursue a course of action in one's life. This is so important. We really, I'm not even going to say we, but people in general, I'm going to try to, keep with it as far as the third person. But just individuals, a person in general really needs to really think for themselves and make their own decisions. And that's what we see here, capacity to decide for oneself and pursue a course of action in one's life. Okay, I see I got somebody backstage. Let me get it together. Greetings. How you doing?
Hey, sis. I thought I was already in the show this whole time.
Oh, my bad.
It's all good.
I'm good. I got tunnel vision. You look beautiful.
Oh,
I see your bun.
Thank you. I just threw this up so I
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, what you're saying is true. I'm just here, listening.
Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with that, because again, autonomy is important. I think that a person should be their own advocate, and just in general, I believe that people should think for themselves and not be codependent on anybody, whether if it's the government or somebody else or whatever have you. Like, codependency is the worst right now. We don't need any codependency. Now, if you're interdependent, okay, that's different. But that codependency, no, we don't need that. We got enough stuff going on. But I did want to talk about autonomy as it relates to our mental health. And I am going to get a little bit more into the workplace. And then at the end, I'm going to do a big crescendo. Well, I'm going to do a spin on it at the end.
Okay.
All right. We see who we got up in here. I know Sheep Stay Asleep. He was here. It said, just thank you for just stopping by and saying, hey. Miss Nicki C, she's up here. Let's see who else we have. Happy Saturday. See, This Beach is Better is here. And I think that's all who we have right now. But thank you all for being here and supporting the channel, the platform. Let me take this off of here. Get back to the article. So this study, I talked about the work-life balance, which is really important. I'm going to move us over so we can get more into the article, just so we can see it a little bit better. There we go. Here we go. And again, that was a quote said by Mr. Eric Gonzalez, assistant professor at the Indiana University Kelley School of Business. So this is what he said. He said, we examine how job control, or the amount of autonomy employees have at work, and cognitive ability, or people's ability to learn and solve problems, influence how work stressors such as time pressure, talked about time sensitivity, or workload affect mental and physical health, and ultimately death, he said. So here's what this study found. we found that work stressors are more likely to cause depression and death as a result of jobs in which workers have little control or for people with lower cognitive ability. So again, workers who have little control. I mean, I know that with certain things going on with the this Crown Royal virus, because again, I have to be careful. I really don't want to get flagged or anything like that. So I had to be careful as to what even words I use. But this also is a very interesting time. I know some people, have realized that, oh, I can telework, and, teleworking is big now. A lot of people are having their Zoom meetings. They're having meetings on Zoom in different places like that. Okay, I see we have a petition. All right. Yeah, just keep reminding me about that, because I'm all about petitions. I will definitely sign a petition and do something about that. But getting back to this right here. So, and again, this outcome really didn't surprise me, because if someone doesn't have a lot of control, then, if they're not permitted to have input as far as like how things are run, or as far as tasks, or how a task is completed, or whatever have you, then the likelihood of them really being motivated to do something is low. And this is where the work environment can get hostile, where there may be a lot of and some of it is not hostile, but an employer may see an increase in procrastination. They could see an increase in passive aggressiveness, or anything of that nature, that again is going to negatively impact productivity, which is going to eventually affect the bottom line of the company or organization. Oh, sis, you can chime in if you want to.
Those are all facts, because I find that when I've worked in different environments and I had lack of control, it made me depressed and uneasy, and you just feel like some kind of way. But when I work on my own, I have more control over my situation, period. I can work when I want to work. I can, do everything how I want to do it. So that's why most of my life I've been self-employed. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, and that is true for a lot of people. They like to have control, and they like to do things. They like to work at their own pace, and just not, to really not have anyone to report to. Now, I know what some people, the devil advocate is going to say, well, in our society, there's always going to be a hierarchy. Okay, I understand that. You have your employee, they have their supervisor. Then that supervisor, then you usually have a manager. And then now you get up into like certain departments, and then you got a manager or a supervisor of that department. Then you get up to the executive board, and then finally you reach the CEO, and then above that is the owner. Okay, I got it. Okay. But you have people who, again, some people, like Nicki C said, some people work better at their own pace, and they work better individually than in groups. Now, that doesn't make them, antisocial or anything. It's just, it could be because of their personality, or again, everybody learns differently as well. So how a person processes information, and there's many different factors. And I think employers, they should consider, whenever, doing the interview process, whether if it's the first interview or the second interview, you might want to take a look and see and have people do a personality test, just so that you have a better understanding of what type of employee. Like for me, I'm an INFJ, so I can work in a team. It's not a problem. I do however, like, I like flexibility, and I don't like it when people micromanage, which again, depending upon if you're the employer or the employee, that, there's going to be a difference of opinion. But let's keep going. As far as one more thing I'd like to say before I proceed, that or for people with lower cognitive ability, that statement can be, the last part of that statement can be taken many ways. I don't believe that was a disrespect toward people who have a lesser mental capacity. However, going back to the article, some people, I do believe that was referring to how people learn and at what rate people learn. And as far as a person being able to troubleshoot and problem solve. I just wanted to clarify that because of how it is, written in the article. Then again, it does say cognitive ability, which is, thoughts, how people process information. Let me see. So on the other hand, Gonzalez Mule, again, we're still talking about the assistant professor of the Business School of Indiana, and his co-author, Bethany Cockburn, found that job demands resulted in better physical health and lower likelihood of death when they were paired with greater levels of control work responsibilities. So again, this is what these professors found at the University of Indiana. So yes, okay, a job is a job, okay? We understand that it's not going to be a vacation. But they said once things were paired with greater levels of control, then that lowered the likelihood of death or the mortality rate. And then I'm going to go one more paragraph, and then I'm going to open it up to Nicki C and like as far as what she feels about it. We believe that this is because job control and cognitive ability act as resources that help people cope with work stressors. Mr. Gonzalez Mule said, job control or autonomy allows people to set their own schedules and prioritize work in a way that helps them achieve their work goals, while people that are smarter are better able to adapt to the demands of a stressful job and figure out ways to deal with stress. Hey, sis, you got anything to say on that?
I don't necessarily agree with the smarter part.
I agree too. It was, yeah, as I said, the way the article was written, because to me, smarter, again, I don't believe that the article was meant to dig at, at as far as people who have a lower mental capacity, because before it said cognitive, you know what I mean? And that is like the thought process of how we process information, and people
Mhm.
learn at different rates. But yeah, that word smarter, I can understand.
Yeah, that was kind of, I don't know, but I've been able to excel in other jobs. It's just that I know that's not me. You know what I mean? It's not me to work because I see everything that's the underlying mind control at the company. You know, different companies I worked at, certain individuals do the same thing I do, but there was always favoritism and stuff like that. I worked in sales, and different people that may have been there longer than me, but doing the same performance I'm doing. But because they're longer than me, they received better leads than I did, and things like that. And that became frustrating to me. So at the end of the day, the best job for me is to where I'm in control. I'm using my talents, and I'm building on that.
Yeah. Greetings also to the Periscope family. I don't want to forget you guys. I see that someone has joined. Peace and blessings to you. So getting back to this again, it could have been a better choice of words, definitely, for this paragraph. Thank you all for being here. I see Mahogany Roots and MJ is here, and the Underrated Darkness is here, and Zero the Infinite. I know. I'm trying to find you right now. There you are. Grand risings to you. I pray that all is well and that you are doing well this morning, this afternoon. This was a little bit of fluff, but again, in studies, this was really a follow-up study to a previous research that authors published in 2017, which was the first study in the management and applied psychology fields to look at the relationship between job characteristics and mortality. And here, the research team looked at data from 3,148 Wisconsin residents who had participated in the nationally representative longitudinal midlife in the United States survey. Of the participants in their sample, 211 individuals died during a 20-year study. So again, this study is huge because 20 years, that's a long time to be researching. That's a lot of data. And then as far as what variables that they were isolating, as far as what particular job characteristics and other things like that. And usually a study that is over 10 years is called a cohort study. So they even tracked how many, that was the whole point of them to track mortality, unfortunately. Managers should provide, here we go. Managers should provide employees working in demanding jobs more control, and in jobs where it is unfeasible to do so, a commensurate reduction in demands. For example, allowing employees to set their own goals or decide how to do their work, or reducing employees' work hours could improve health. This is coming again from the assistant professor, Mr. Gonzalez Mule. I'm going to go one more paragraph. Organizations should select people high on cognitive ability for demanding jobs. By doing this, they will benefit from the increased job performance associated with more intelligent employees while having a healthier workforce. Now, again, this word intelligent, and then I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to pass the mic. To me, I would have liked to have seen the word more strategic. I mean, and here's the reason why. You know, I would rather have common sense. Now, this is just me talking. Oh, there I go. This is just me talking. I would rather have common sense than thank you for posting that. Y'all know how I do. I be doing good, and then I see a squirrel. But I would rather have common sense than to be an educated fool. And that's just me. I would have liked to have seen the word more strategic employees. Somebody who's strategic. Now we're getting into strategies. Now we're getting into, okay, here comes some problem solving. What you think, sis, about that word that they used?
What was the word again?
On the screen here, I'm gonna read this this last sentence. It says, by doing this, they will benefit from the increased job performance associated with more intelligent employees while having a healthier workforce. I said, I think the word strategic would have been better, because you can have a lot of educated fools running around there who's not solving problems.
That's true. Because I've seen it happen at jobs. I see it happen all the time. The person with the position is the one who is not carrying out company policies, doing what they want to do when it comes to the employees. Like I said, favoritism and all that, when this person's performance is just as good as the other performance. Why are you giving me regenerated leads? Why are you giving me recycled leads? Because you got a plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. And it would have been interesting if the variables actually covered nepotism and favoritism, because that has an impact on the work environment.
It really does. And then, I always speak my mind wherever I am. So I'm one of the people that most likely that they don't like, because I see everything and I speak on it. And I wasn't supposed to see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
I wasn't supposed to notice that I called this man yesterday, the same number. Every day I'm calling the same numbers. I'm not supposed to know that. I'm just using that job as an example because it's one of the jobs that I saw through the BS. And it was a lot of it.
thank you, Zero the Infinite, for dropping the links to the channels. Just remember that during this time, I mean, you can easily just hit the subscribe button on the channel links that have been dropped. Make sure to check each other out, and let's just help build each other up. But I definitely agree, with your statement. It's just, there's just, it would have been interesting to see if those variables were included in this study. And I'm just about at the end of this article, and then I'm going to transition to the next one. And these were short articles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the last paragraph on this page. Okay, the Crown Royal virus. Again, I'm going to be careful how to way. have to be careful about what words were used, might be causing more mental health issues. So it's particularly important that work not exacerbate those problems, meaning make it worse, Mr. Gonzalez Mule said. This includes managing and perhaps reducing employee demands, being aware of employees' cognitive capability to handle demands, and providing employees with autonomy are even more important than before and I'm not going to use that word, this terrible global social experiment began. So what I put on here, let me see what my note said. So the note that I put was, again, season 2, episode 18, I covered emotional intelligence. And this is where, again, where employers need to know their employees. I know some businesses are now having people do a personality test and different things that they're using to actually screen for, again, as another requirement, just so they know that they have a better idea of what type of employee that they're going to have. But with this in particular, with, again, the social distancing and people are inside and the sheltering in, I am just going to do a recap of the 5 elements of emotional intelligence. One is, first of all, self-awareness. And the 3 things that fell under that was authenticity. And sis, you always say to love ourselves, to know ourselves, and to be true to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that falls under self-awareness is strengths and weaknesses. Again, knowing oneself. There are people that can organize anything. There's other people who they do their best work on their own, and they tinker a lot, and they are the jack of all trades. The main thing is for an individual to know what their strengths and weaknesses are. Another thing that falls under self-awareness was personal accountability and holding oneself responsible. The next component of emotional intelligence was self-regulation. So that was talking about a person, being in control of their emotions. I noticed that a lot, and you can chime in on this because I'm gonna do a natural pause. I don't, y'all know I can get long-winded, but a lot of people are so quick to hear and not listen. And then that's where they react. You get a very strong emotional reaction, and it's like, whoa, but that may not have even been what that person said or what that other person was trying to communicate, because we don't actively listen. And here, actively listening falls under that, and also controlling our emotions. What do you think about that, sis?
Yeah, a lot of times we do let our emotions get in the way of different things that occur. And I feel like, it's important to be mindful and listen to what another person has to say. Also, not letting your emotions get involved in what they say all the time. Like, come on now. A lot of times it ain't even meant for you to be feeling some kind of way about it. It's just like these people's different opinions. Just because someone has a different opinion that differs from yours is not a reason for you to get upset about it. Because we all have our own minds and we all have our own thoughts. So I'm working on that. That's something I want to work on with myself, is emotional control. and dealing with people on a daily basis, it's important that you do get control of your emotions, because that's all it is emotion.
The next thing on emotional intelligence, and it'll be touched on briefly in the next article, is motivation. There's internal motivation and then there's external motivation. And part of that goes with the person's, like, if a person has a positive outlook on life and whatever have you. The next element is empathy, and that's being able to put someone being able to put themselves in someone else's shoes. That's like the second most important thing of emotional intelligence. One is to be self-aware, and the second one is empathy. And then finally, the last component of emotional intelligence is social skills. And that includes assertive communication and and also being able to set professional and personal boundaries. That all falls into emotional intelligence. And with that, I'm going to transition to the next article. And sis, if you got something to say, might as well. Come on, Zero. You gonna put those squirrels in the chat? Natural. What's going on, babe? How you doing? If you got a blue suit, just remember to drop those links and support each other. You got a business, go ahead and promote it. Uh-huh. Okay, let me transition to this article. Hold on here. This always happens. All right, here we go. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Share the screen. Yes, Zero the Infinite. I do see you, and you literally put like 6 squirrel emojis in the chat, brother. Yeah, I know. Me and my squirrels. Okay, this is an article out of the Fast Company magazine. See, the case for autonomous leadership in the remote workplace. So again, a lot of people have been doing telework. They've been doing like virtual meetings on Zoom and other platforms. And for some people, I know, for example, Twitter, they actually gave their people the option to telework permanently. So, you never know. So let me keep going. Here we go. This article I really like because it really began with a historical figure, which was Thomas Edison. So as visionary as he was, Thomas Edison probably didn't foresee the Big Brother implications of video surveillance when he premiered the Kentograph, a primitive movie camera back in 1891. However, y'all already know about Big Brother, so we're not. Y'all know about the surveillance and what's going on. Yet here we are in the spring of 2020. And of course, with tech surveillance startups seeing an uptick in sales and executives scratching their heads trying to solve the problem of how to promote productivity in a remote workplace. So, you know how some employers are, that they like to, again, getting back to micromanaging, you have some people that are like that. They want an update like literally every 5 minutes. Like every hour they want they want to update. And that's just how they operate as a supervisor or a manager. However, this is what the article says. Leaders who offer more freedom, even in the remote workplace, are having less trouble with the transition and noticing a remarkable upside. Now, here's what it says. It may seem counterintuitive, but giving employees the freedom to complete their work creatively without the pressure of logging their hourly input not only mitigates anxiety or reduces anxiety and builds trust, it leverages their individual strengths and can add more value to the process. What do you think about that, sis?
I think that's true. I don't really think too much about it, but I think it's true.
I put a little bubble up here and I said, with all this, there's an opportunity for discovery of hidden talent for the employee and the employer. So I used to not think that I had any creativity at all until, and then all of a sudden, here comes 2020, and then all this, all this creative stuff starts happening, But you never know. A person never knows what hidden talent they might have. And, in some instances, the employee may even notice that hidden talent before the employee does. And they identify that as a asset or contribution to the organization, team, or the company. And I think that is also good too. An individual may find out that they have a talent or a strength that they weren't even aware of.
True.
All right, let me go back to the article. A study from the University of Melbourne found that employees who were given more control over areas such as schedule, workflow, and input on strategy were more motivated. Here we go. Motivation. That's one of the elements of emotional intelligence. Engaged, loyal, and mentally well. When employees were given more autonomy, the study showed they were more likely to be self-driven and possess intrinsic motivation, which decreased the need for external rewards. Again, let me read the last sentence. It also showed teams were more competent and connected and less susceptible to burnout. So this is huge for all the employers out there, and even for people who are employees that are transitioning to become self-made entrepreneurs, or who are about to go into open up a business or whatever have you soon. So with this is what happens when you give people more control and autonomy. First of all, they're more self-driven because it's on them to do, and they have flexibility as far as when and how they want to work, what personal system they want to use to keep themselves organized. Intrinsic motivation. So that was motivation to engage in behavior, and a behavior arises from within the individual because it is naturally satisfying to you. So again, it's not a person is working, but it's not seen as a chore, if that makes sense. They actually enjoy what they do. And then, of course, if someone is enjoying what they do, then, of course, there's going to be a decrease in the need for external rewards, such as possibly a raise or whatever have you. And again, hey, I understand. Listen, if you're trying to make You trying to make a little something? Hey, I'm not mad at you. Hey, you go ahead on and you do what you need to do. I'm not, hey. But at the same time, yeah, Zero, I see you. Yeah, Nikola Tesla. But at the same time, the employer will be like, well, if the employees are, first of all, if there is a positive work environment, then there's not going to be a whole lot of need for multiple external rewards. Not that an external reward shouldn't be given, but if people are already enjoying their work, then it's like, okay, they enjoy what they do. And it's just natural to want to work because that individual enjoys what they do. Feel free to chime in. I'm not going to go to the next paragraph yet.
Facts. It makes you want to work harder when
exactly.
You see that you're appreciated in the business. When you're appreciated, you do everything for what you believe in. Just like when I had to work at other people's salons, and I was the only one there opening the doors every day and closing it at night because I was that busy. But when you start feeling like people don't appreciate you, that's when you start, withdrawing and, going in a different direction. So, yeah, I can see that.
Okay, let me see. Let me go back to this paragraph. So the devil's advocate argument is, or the argument isn't for anarchy. Every work environment needs structure and a strong direction for employees to be aligned. But once that's established, there should be room for employees to take ownership of their individual contributions and create in a style that is intuitive and plays up their strengths. There's a lot going on with that because, again, I'm realizing, as far as if anybody is in has been a supervisor, and it doesn't mean even if it's one person or even a small group, as far as strong direction in employees, first of all, there needs to be a clear establishment of roles and responsibilities and what the expectations are. And then after you get that, of course, your terms and conditions or your protocols of the company terms, terms of agreement, standard operating procedures of how you operate. But at the same time, the employees, I think when people get into micromanagement and all that, some of that I do believe, and I know I'm being judgmental, but some of that is an ego thing. And some people, unfortunately, want to control somebody else and even how they work, which can also be, again, counterproductive, because if an employer wants, he wants, maximum, productivity, then you don't want to be so controlling to where people become, what I mean, passive aggressive, or some people, they don't even want to be in the work environment. They're like, nah, you get too controlling. I'm over here. I'm pretty much completing the task, you know what I'm saying? But because I don't complete the task the way you would complete it, you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Then it becomes an issue. Like, for example, if I'm over whatever, if I'm a supervisor, like for example, I'm a maid in the hotel, right? And I have maybe, or a manager of the maids, and I have maybe 4 or 5 people under me. As long as the rooms are clean and we're not having any like termite infestation or bed bug infestation and different things. You know what I mean? Everything is clean. Then just because a person doesn't clean the way I do doesn't mean that I should literally give somebody, raise Cain, raise hell, fly off the handle, and just act all crazy. Okay, I'm done. Y'all know me. I can go on a rant.
That's facts. Mm-hmm. Everybody got their own way of doing things.
Let me see here. Let me complete that paragraph. I couldn't even complete that paragraph. This looks different in each work environment. In our business, for instance, which spans both tech and cryptocurrency. Some areas such as marketing and content have more room for creativity than others, such as software, development, or finance. What I found is for areas with less rope, the simple act of asking for input on the vision and end goal can go a long way in increasing overall engagement. And I agree with that, because now if the employer simply asks for input, okay, so now the employee is going to be like, whoa, so you mean my opinion actually matters? So whatever I say could affect how the way things are done, or again, who knows? Sometimes employees come up with ideas that even the employer hadn't even thought of. And that's why it's important to have a dialogue. Let me go one more sentence. For people who crave more structure, there can still be clear guidelines and boundaries. Here we go again with that word boundaries. But allowing them to partake in important conversations, here we go, gives them a greater sense of ownership over their work. And again, just to add one more thing, if an individual believes that their voice is being heard, then what? They're going to care about the quality of their work. Because now, okay, my work actually matters. And that's all I got on that paragraph. You got anything, sis?
I'm listening.
Okay.
Not right now.
All right, so let me keep going. So counter to the wise adage that it's the journey, not the destination, that counts. In business communicating, the end point is often more than marking the trail. So for many companies and organizations out there, it's all about what affects their bottom line. If individuals are, affecting the bottom line. That's why for some things, I know I've noticed a lot of online jobs about as far as selling, health insurance, like, because you need a license to do that. And that's why those people have commissions, because that right there would be a great example, because usually a person is working what? Usually the person is working by themselves, and it's based off upon like how many people they can get to sign up for the health insurance, and then they get paid based off of that. So now the employer is looking at, okay, you signed up X amount of people this week, so now you're on commission, so you're going to get X amount of percentage off of what the company made. Let me keep going. Agree on the critical logistics, meeting places, arrival time, luggage essentials, then let your employees choose how they get there. Some might take a motorcycle, others might fly or choose an evening drive. With what vehicle your employees choose, what time of day they travel, and the route they select all lead to the same place, it can only benefit to allow them the freedom they desire to enjoy the journey. And I just put, the only thing I put here was like, it's all about results. And here we go. This is huge. These next few sentences. Many employers and managers make the mistake of doubling down on systems and mandated processes that don't work for all. This often hinders both performance and employee engagement. The DNA of your team changes with each hire. And not only with each hire, but also, as far as whatever the turnover rate may be, and also for people who are retiring. If you allow more flexibility in how goals are achieved, you are better positioned to capitalize on both the individual and collective strengths of your team. Now that was huge. That was a whole lot. So for the side note, this was what I put. I put the Lean Six Sigma. So this is one of those things that a tool, should I say, that is used to constantly evaluate certain like processes, whether if it's a business or whatever have you. And I remember a former supervisor whom I had the chance to, work with. In fact, he wasn't even my supervisor. He was my supervisor, but, I would, a great mentor. And he saw me get, promoted in the workplace. In fact, that was actually my first promotion in the workplace. And he always preached about Lean Six Sigma, how, we should trim the fat or the waste and maximize what works. He said, each day, and this is what he said, he would say, each day you come in this aid station. And I remember this just like it was yesterday, as if, as if he was standing right here in front of me or beside me, that each day you come in this aid station, you should be working on, what can be done or how can we make this aid station better to make it more functional and to make the whole workflow or patient care better, improved. He preached that oh my goodness, the majority of the time, in fact, all of the time prior to his retirement. And that's, again, is not just good in the workplace. The Lean Six Sigma tool that can also be applied in a person's personal life. Listen, I know I'm going to go on a rant, but I'm going to go on one. There are people who come and go all the time in a person's life. And here we go back to a previous live I did. Some people add to a person's life, and some people are just straight up leeches. They will literally attempt to suck the living life out of other people. So a person should be looking at, okay, I got people coming and going. Identify who is adding and looking out for, a person's best interest, and then also identify who is subtracting and leeching and mooching as well. And then as far as Lean Six Sigma, hey, there's some people that a person may have to kick to the curb or handle with a long handled spoon. That's just how it is sometimes, unfortunately. But if a person has a wagon and the objective is to get that wagon up the hill and over the hill, and if you have somebody have the nerve to sit in the wagon, let me tell you something. It's time for that person to go, because now they're adding weight to the wagon. And again, they were supposed to be there, should I say, to help you push the wagon up over the hill. But instead, they had the nerve to sit down in the wagon as other people were pushing. And mind you, this is your wagon. Yeah, that's a problem. So Lean Six Sigma, as far as trimming the fat and the waste and then maximizing, you need to, an individual should surround themselves with like-minded individuals. That person should surround themselves with people who care about their best interests, who are positive, and who believe that person can achieve their goals. Is there anything you want to say on that? I know I went on a rant. Are you still there, sis?
I'm still here. I had to step away for a second.
Oh, it's all good.
If you want me to drop down and let somebody else come up here, let me know. But if not, I'll just stay right here.
No, you're good. Don't even worry about it. But yeah, but just what I was saying was, the Lean Six Sigma, that can apply in a person's personal life as well. That, not everybody, there's many people that come and go in a person's life. And some people, they are not there to add. They're actually there to actually subtract and divide. And I said, a person has to be careful with Lean Six Sigma. That can be applied professionally and personally, that a person should identify that and just trim the fat. Hey, may have to cut some people loose, but a person should be around like-minded individuals and people who believe that they can and will achieve their goals. You have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I see a lot of that going on. But, at the end of the day, when you can identify with that and you see it, then you know how to control it from there.
Okay, let me go to the next page. We're almost there. Like I said, these articles were not that long. I think this one also is about 3 pages. And here again, this comes back to communication, which again, remember in emotional intelligence, social skills was one of the elements of emotional intelligence, which included assertive communication. So different work languages may also resonate better with other key members of your team. Again, there's some people, and we also learn, differently too. Some people are visual learners. Some people learn by hearing. Some people learn by hands-on. And again, people communicate differently as well. So here's the problem with people who micromanage. So here's what the article says. If you're too stringent with process, this often derives from a need for more visibility and control. You risk burying talent or deterring it from entering your virtual door. So again, I used to hate, And I can understand, because if someone, to a certain extent, micromanagement, if someone is particularly a new leader or a new supervisor, then first of all, that person usually feels they have something to prove to the company or organization. And then they feel that, okay, I should always have, or they may believe that they should always have control or visibility, to be right there looking over, people's shoulder. Problem is, then if a person is looking over somebody else's shoulder, then, I mean, first of all, it's irritating. And then that person doesn't feel that the employer trusts them, or that they even may have the perception that the employer believes that they're incompetent, because, okay, well, why are you working over my shoulder when I've done this for years? You know what I mean? A person, an individual may run into a situation like that. So then that actually could potentially shut down any type of creativity, or even, from any creativity from actually surfacing or being discovered. Then it talked about Generation Z. I don't feel that a particular generation should be singled out. It says a definite trait of Generation Z is their need for individual expression. Well, that's for anybody. That's not just Generation Z. That's for anybody. Individual expression is important, to and for everybody. Let me keep moving. That's all I'm going to say about that. And again, here micromanagers are spoken of, and then the autonomous leaders. So here's the difference. So when it comes to like Zoom happy hours and virtual lunch breaks, micromanagers, these meetings or whatever, however casual in intent, mean more time to monitor for employee engagement. So they're the monitors, informally grill, for productivity. So these people, they monitor and they ask a lot of questions, and ultimately steal glances behind an otherwise closed work from home curtain. And then for autonomous leaders, they see the meeting as a optional social outlet, and that this gives them the idea to hear invaluable feedback from their employees that might have gotten missed. It states that the most important workplace conversations didn't take place during scheduled meetings or on one-to-one, reviews. They actually took place when the pressure is off and guards are down. So again, instead of it being, hey, I need you in my office at such and such a time, it could have been a third independent setting for both parties to be relaxed, to actually have a more authentic conversation. Not that people were lying, but it could definitely be more relaxed, and people usually tend to open up a little bit more. But the main takeaway from this paragraph is to keep communication open. Okay, anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm good.
All right. We're just about there. So here we go. We can all agree businesses need to make to meet key performance metrics to thrive. However, many companies make the mistake of putting too much emphasis on measuring input. So a lot of companies, that they go really hard. I know, again, with all these like algorithms and all these different things or formulas that they use. However, this is where it could be counterproductive. Putting too much emphasis on managing the process can be a distraction from the end goal and use up valuable resources. It ends up adding to the problem rather than creating a solution. That I do believe was self-explanatory. And here, a daily stand-up in Slack can be a digitally transparent way to communicate what's being worked on and any impediments in the way. This allows leaders detailed vision as needed while still putting trust in the managers they've hired to oversee key areas of the business, which I think is true. I think that right there definitely gives more balance, because now whoever the supervisor is, they are getting like feedback at like whatever stage is going on with the project or the task. But at the same time, the managers who are working and getting it done, they still have, it's like, okay, yeah, I just, pretty much leader comes over, hey, I need an update on this and that and the other, and then just touch base. And then the managers still believe that, hey, I'm still working on this, but yet, there's definitely more confidence, particularly if a employee believes that the employer has confidence in them to complete whatever project they're working on or task. Okay, this is the end of the article. Here we go. All employees thrive in environments where trust is reciprocated, meaning it's a two-way street, and individual differences are not only supported, but applauded. And that's pretty much the end of the article. Because a lot of that other stuff is just fluff. Just saying, it's just fluff. Let me see here. But the main takeaway, the reason why I chose to cover this is because, to me, autonomy, to me, it's another step towards freedom. And that's how the way I look at it. And I understand, teamwork makes the dream work. I got it. But at the same time, there comes a point where in a person's life, self-confidence and competence are important. In fact, going back to way back in my season 1 episode, I don't even think it was an episode. It was just season 1, Shalonda's 5 C's. So I talked about confidence. I talked about competence as far as knowing, to being a subject matter expert as far as knowing. And then I talked about consistency, because employers, they want to see a track record of consistency, which is one of the reasons why, again, they look at the resume and they want to see, you know, how long you've been at your previous company or whatever. And then the next thing I talked about was character, which went into many things as far as honesty, respect, loyalty, personal courage. And the last thing I covered was commitment. But yes, autonomy to me is just another small step to freedom. So let me put back the thing up for what autonomy is again. It's the right or condition of self-government. A person thinks for themselves and they do for themselves. Capacity to decide for oneself and pursue a course of action in one's life. I was listening to another broadcaster, what should I say, podcaster. And this individual I remember because I went back a ways, and on one of his particular podcasts, he said, you are the captain of your ship to pretty much get out there and do. And that to me, that's what autonomy, again, just one more step towards freedom. And I think that's why I think for some people, this may be the time for people to start their own business and do what they really want to do. And that may be not being an employee, but actually an employer. So that's the end of that article. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Let me get out of this because that's the end. Shout out to Mitch Demeter, who was the writer of this article, which happens to be a magazine, The Source. And again, the study that they're talking about was done. Hold on here. Let me go back up. Yeah, from the University of Melbourne. All right, let me stop sharing the screen. Get back over here. I do want to leave you with a quote before I go. So this is a quote from Malcolm X. You know, we've had a lot of tragedies that have occurred over, my goodness, centuries. But this is what Malcolm X said. He says, I don't even call it violence when it's in self-defense. I call it intelligence. And what I will say is the reason why I just wanted to end with a quote from Malcolm X. Oh, thank you for coming back, Underrated Darkness. I really wanted to end with a quote from Malcolm X. There's been a lot of violence against our community. And then again, another reason why I even covered autonomy was because, as a people, and particularly to Black men, a person is their own best advocate. And I will say this with a heavy heart. Don't wait for some Black women to support you. Now, some of us actually support you, but for the ones that don't, you have to be your own advocate. And as people, we need to be our own advocate. We really do. Oh, you got anything to say on that, sis?
That's just facts. That's all I can say. Facts. Facts. You have to advocate for yourself. You can't just really think that, you're going to have support systems that you think you're going to have. And you got to support yourself, man. And push for the dream, man. Push for the goal.
I'm going to try not to go on a rant, but this is what I'm going to say. First of all, I'd like to express my deepest condolences to the family of Mr. George Floyd. I'm so sorry. That was a terrible thing that the world witnessed during that live stream. It was awful. It was definitely fear and anxiety inducing. It was horrific. It was definitely a hate crime, a killing, and a domestic act of terrorism. And I will say this to some of the women who had the nerve to retract their statement. I really don't care what color his partner or his wife was. This was another Black man that was killed in a very horrific manner. I had just did an article on Mr. Trevor Bell, who's actually a Black man living in the UK, a taxi cab driver. And an individual, white, of Irish accent, spat at him. And that gentleman contracted the Crown Royal virus and is no longer here with us. That man was a family man. He had 3 children. He had just recently become a grandfather. And that another terrible act of terrorism. Just because that person didn't want to pay 9 British pounds. And which was the reason why I waited till the last part of the broadcast to show his partner of 28 years. It really shouldn't matter what color and a Black man's partner is. It really shouldn't. This is just my opinion. I understand that not everybody is going to agree, but that's still another Black man who was hardworking. That gentleman worked in excess of 60 hours to provide for his partner and his 3 children. And he's gone. Kobe Bryant, man, we lost him early this year. That was terrible, horrific. We lost him, what was it, January 26th of this year?
Last year.
I think it was this year, 2020, that he passed, though. I think it was 2020. But anyway, he's gone. I mean, his wife,
It was 2019, sis.
It was?
Yeah.
I had to double check. Oh, yeah.
Who you talking about? I'm thinking about Nipsey. I'm sorry.
No. I'm talking about Kobe Bryant. You know, we lost him this year. Yeah, Nipsey also. That's another one.
Nipsey
Yeah,
been gone for a year. I'm
you've
sorry. I'm
been gone
tripping.
for a long minute. Yeah, that one
I'm
right
thinking about
there.
Nipsey right now.
Right. I hear
Crazy.
you. It's okay. But again, you know, we are losing so many Black men, and it's like, well, should it really matter what race or what race his partner was?
Yes.
That's another one gone. And who am I to tell a grown man who he should and should not date? You know what I mean? Who knows? He might have tried to date a Black woman, but had a lot of bad experiences, and then said, "To heck with it. I'm just gonna, do what I'm gonna date
Explore
who I
my
want to date."
options.
Right?
Explore the
Exactly.
options.
So who am I to tell a Black man who he should and should not date or have relations with? I mean, come on. Some of you females out here just really trifling to disrespect that man's memory, to disrespect just the memory of his life is just shameful. To speak of the dead in such a
Disrespectful way.
disrespectful and disgusting, and that's what I got for that, because that I found that highly offensive, and it just shows the
narcissism.
yes, there it is, amen, the narcissism, no empathy. That man is gone. He called for his mother in those last moments. Man, I tell you, you guys need to really, some of you women out here, Black women, need to really wake up, because there is no excuse. Well, with this being said, autonomy is another step to freedom, I do believe, not just in the workplace, but also in a person's life. A person should be the captain of their ship and make their own decisions, as well as think for themselves. Do you have any closing remarks?
Not really. I'm good. I just, thank you for sharing this type of information that you have been sharing. It is very helpful to a lot of people, and I commend you on that. Uh, keep up all your good work, and I'm always here to support you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for just coming up on the platform. And also, I'm thankful for all those in the chat who participated, and also thankful to the moderators who dropped the links so that we can help build and support each other, and to help build and support each other. First of all, I'd just like to say I love you as a sister. The Most High protect you, lead and guide and direct your footsteps.
Amen. Jack, same back at you.
And before I leave, I do have to scroll this one statement. Well, actually a few statements. Mental health is something that's important to me. I am myself recovering from anxiety and depression. But if anyone out there is having any suicidal ideations or thoughts of suicide, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is there, 1-800-273-8255, so that you can speak to someone, because mental health matters. Again, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. And once again, none of my statements are endorsed by the United States Army, Department of Defense, and or any other military branch, element, or government entity. And with that, peace and blessings. Happy Saturday. And just be safe out there.
Peace, y'all.
And with that being said, hey, peace and blessings. We gone.